Thank you for inviting me to testify today. Our 500-plus page report provides a thorough, comprehensive, and objective recitation of the facts related to the department's and the FBI's handling of the Clinton email investigation. It was the product of 17 months of investigative work by a dedicated OIG team that reviewed well over 1.2 million documents and interviewed more than 100 witnesses, many on multiple occasions. The review team followed the evidence wherever it led, and through their efforts, we identified the inappropriate text and instant messages discussed in the report. Additionally, the OIG's painstaking forensic examinations recovered thousands of text messages that otherwise would have been lost or undisclosed. As detailed in our report, we found that the inappropriate political messages we uncovered cast a cloud over the mid-year investigation, sowed doubt about the credibility of the FBI's handling of it, and impacted the reputation of the FBI. We found the implication that senior FBI employees would be willing to take official action to impact a presidential candidate's electoral prospects to be deeply troubling and antithetical to the core values of the FBI and the Justice Department. With regard to the decision to close the investigation without prosecution, we found no evidence that the conclusions by the prosecutors were the result of improper considerations, including political bias, but rather were exercises of prosecutorial discretion by the prosecutors based on their assessment of the facts, the law, and past department practice. Our review also included a fact-based, detailed assessment of certain specific investigative and prosecutorial decisions that were the subject of controversy. It was necessary to select particular investigative decisions because it would not have been possible to recreate and analyze every decision made in a year-long investigation. In examining these decisions, the question we considered was not whether a particular decision was the most effective choice, but rather whether the documentary and testimonial evidence indicated the decision was based on improper considerations, including political bias. This approach is consistent with the OIG's handling of such questions in past reviews when assessing discretionary judgment calls, and recognizes and respects the institutional oversight role of the OIG. Our report provides a comprehensive assessment of these decisions and of the mid-year investigation and details the factual evidence so that the public, Congress, and other stakeholders can conduct their own assessment of them. Within this framework, as to the specific investigative and prosecutive decisions we reviewed, we did not find documentary or testimonial evidence that improper considerations, including political bias, directly affected those specific decisions, in part because the decisions were made by the larger mid-year team or the prosecutors. This determination by the OIG, as I noted, does not mean that we necessarily endorse the decisions or conclude they were the most effective options among those considered, or that our finding should or can be extrapolated to cover other decisions made during the course of the investigation by the FBI employees who sent these inappropriate text messages. Conversely, we found the FBI's explanations for its failures to take immediate action after discovering the Wiener laptop in October 2016 to be unpersuasive, and we did not have confidence that the decision of Deputy Assistant Director Strzok to prioritize the Russia investigation over following up on the Wiener laptop was free from bias in light of his text messages. We also found that in key moments, then FBI Director Comey clearly departed from FBI and department norms, and his decisions negatively impacted the perception of the FBI and the Justice Department as fair administrators of justice. Director Comey concealed from the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General his intention to make a unilateral announcement in July 2016 about the reasons for his recommendation not to prosecute former Secretary Clinton. His July 5th statement included inappropriate commentary about uncharged conduct, announced his views on what a quote-unquote reasonable prosecutor would do, and served to confuse rather than clarify public understanding of his recommendation. In late October, he again acted without adequately consulting department leadership and contrary to important department norms when he sent a letter to Congress announcing renewed investigative activity days before the election. There are many lessons to be learned from the department's and the FBI's handling of the mid-year investigation. But among the most important is the need to respect the institution's hierarchies and structures and to follow established policies, procedures, and norms, even in the highest profile and most challenging investigations. No rule, policy, or practice is perfect, of course, but at the same time, neither is any individual's ability to make judgments under pressure or in what may seem like unique circumstances. When leaders and officials adhere to bedrock principles and values, the public has greater confidence in the fairness and rightness of their decisions, and those institutions' leaders better protect the interests of federal law enforcement and the dedicated professionals who serve us all. By contrast, the public's trust is negatively impacted when law enforcement officials make statements reflecting bias, when leaders abandon institutional norms and the organizational hierarchy in favor of their own ad hoc judgments, and when the leadership of the department and the FBI are unable to speak directly with one another for the good of the institutions. Our report makes 9 recommendations, most of which can be tied together through a common theme, that the FBI and the Justice Department remain true to their foundational principles and values in all their work. That concludes my prepared statement. I'd be pleased to answer the committee's questions.
Dr. Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Feinstein, members of the committee. I appreciate this opportunity to discuss the FBI's response to the report by the Justice Department's Office of Inspector General about the DOJ and FBI's activities in the run-up to the 2016 election. I take this report very seriously, and we accept its findings and its recommendations. We're already addressing these recommendations in a number of ways and are determined to emerge from this experience better and wiser. Our mission at the FBI is to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution. And to carry out that mission, we're entrusted with significant authority, so our actions are subject to close oversight by the Congress, by the courts, and by independent entities like the Inspector General. That oversight, in my view, makes the FBI stronger as an organization and makes the public more safe. And so I appreciate the Inspector General's work in conducting this important review. Although the report did not find any evidence of political bias or improper considerations ultimately impacting the investigation under review, the report did identify errors of judgment, violations of or disregard for policy, and decisions that, at least in the benefit of hindsight, were certainly not the best choices. So I'd like to briefly summarize what we're doing to respond to those findings and recommendations. First, we are going to hold accountable any employee for potential misconduct. We have already referred conduct highlighted in the report to our Office of Professional Responsibility, OPR, which is the FBI's independent disciplinary office. We're going to adhere to the disciplinary process that office has fairly, but without delay. And once all the steps in that process are complete, we will not hesitate to hold people accountable. Second, we're going to make sure that every FBI employee understands the lessons of this report through in-depth, focused training, starting first at the top with all of our senior executives from around the world, and then every FBI employee, to make sure that we do not repeat the mistakes identified in this report. Third, we're going to make sure that we have the policies, the procedures, and the training needed for everyone to understand and remember what is expected of all of us. That includes things like drilling home the importance of objectivity and avoiding even the appearance of potential bias or conflicts of interest in our work, ensuring that recusals are handled appropriately and correctly and are clearly communicated to the right people, making all employees fully aware of our new policy on contacts with the news media, which I issued last November, and making clear that we will not tolerate noncompliance with that policy. Ensuring that we follow all DOJ policies about public statements on ongoing investigations and uncharged conduct, and ensuring that our employees adhere strictly to the policies and procedures we have on the use of FBI systems, networks, and devices. I've also directed our Associate Deputy Director, who's the number 3 official in the organization, to lead a very focused review of how the FBI handles particularly sensitive investigations, how they're structured, staffed, supervised, so that every sensitive investigation can be conducted to the FBI's highest standards. The OIG's report makes clear that we have significant work to do. And as I said, we're going to learn from the report and be better as a result. At the same time, I want to emphasize that this report is focused on a specific set of events back in 2016 and a small number of FBI employees connected with those events. Mistakes made by those employees do not define our 37,000 men and women and the great work they do every day. Nothing in this report impugns the integrity of our workforce as a whole or the FBI as an institution. I want to be very clear with this committee about the FBI that I've been able to see up close every day in the 10 months since my confirmation hearing before you all. I've been meeting with employees from over 30 of our field offices, from LEGAT offices overseas, from every headquarters division, and over and over and over again, I hear incredible stories, remarkable, inspiring stories about the work our men and women are doing to protect the American people and uphold the Constitution. This year alone, we've rescued over 1,300 children from child predators. We've arrested more than 4,600 violent gang members in just the past several months. In the past several months, we've disrupted terrorist attacks ranging from the pier in San Francisco to a crowded shopping mall in Miami. I could go on, but the point is that the FBI's men and women as a whole are doing all this work with the unfailing fidelity to our Constitution and laws that it demands, the bravery that it deserves, and the integrity that the American people rightly expect. As I've been trying to say since my confirmation hearing, at every opportunity, I am committed to doing this job by the book, and I expect all our employees to do the same in every respect. I am a huge believer in the importance of process, and I believe strongly that the FBI's brand over 110 years is based more on the way we've accomplished our successes than our successes themselves. That means following our rules, following our laws, following our guidelines. We've got to stay faithful to our core values and best traditions, and there will inevitably be times when we feel extraordinary pressure to not follow our process and policies, but those are precisely the times when it's most important to adhere to them. We're trying to make sure that we're not just doing the right thing, but that we're doing it in the right way and pursuing the facts independently and objectively, no matter who likes it. That, in my view, is the best way. That, in my view, is the only way to maintain the trust and credibility of the American people we serve